Okay, everybody, and welcome to How I Learned to Love Fantasy podcast.
Hello.
I'm Travis Oates,
I'm Dan Billet.
and today we are taking a look at another thing that helped us,
Learn to love fantasy.
and that is a game,
Yes.
but not a video game.
Not a video game this time.
This time we are taking a look at an RPG, and not the RPG you probably think we're going to talk about.
No, probably not. Probably not
nope.
that RPG.
This one is Marvel Superheroes.
Woohoo! TSR's other big thing from the 80s. Yeah.
Yes. So this was all I played practically between 1983 and 1989.
Right.
Like there was a six-year period there. Now I did play some Dungeons and Dragons too. But this is my major thing.
We should talk about how we kind of came to this, because
Sure.
this was a surprise to both of us.
Sure,
Like
yes.
like we were talking about what we were going to do for our next game, and we were talking about video games, and we talked about board games, that were but we were like, well, I've got these I used to really like the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game, but nobody knows that.
Sure.
And Jed Travis was like, hold on. I know it pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My life revolved
Yeah.
around this game. Yeah. So I brought, so here's the original. So what you're looking at is the basic on the screen.
Yeah.
And these are the basic books. Now you can see mine are not nearly as good a shape as the one on the screens are. These are so, I also get a kick out of, look at the advertisements there. Star Frontiers.
Yeah.
Boy, that never really caught on. And here's the original characters that came with the basic set. Never even cut them out. So there's a real blast from the past.
Yeah.
I don't throw anything away. So I have all my old books, and I owned every single supplement and book that you could have in this series.
Did you get the Marvel Universe books, like the ones which had all the characters? Because I know you didn't.
You mean
Yes.
this right here?
That is exactly what
Do you
I
have
mean.
the same one, or do you have?
I think I do. Which one is that?
So no, I think you have one of the upgrades. You have an
that's
update book.
So this is the 1989 update. This is the
Yeah.
1990 update, and
So-
this is
so-
the Eel through Mad Dog. So this
Yeah.
is the next one along.
So
after
they
that.
made 8 of these.
Right.
The first 4 were taking us A through Z, and then the next 4 were anything that had been updated fully from A to Z. Anything that had been updated for that particular
New
year.
characters, like changes to the characters.
Yeah.
Gray Hulk, new Iron
Exactly.
Man armor,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, so I do. I have all 8 of those. I didn't bring them all
Gotcha.
because they're giant.
I didn't know if you had them
decided to bring other ones. No, when I say I had everything, I had everything you could potentially buy for this system. It was just an automatic buy for me.
Gotcha.
But yes, so you tell why you.
Yeah, well, we came to it from both of us really loved this game. For me, more in like, I don't know that I played it more than like once or twice,
Right.
but the world of it, because I was a comic book kid, and I really, really loved comic books. And so being able to see like the stats behind, like, so how does Hulk compare to the Thing, and who's stronger, and like what, like those sorts of things. And that's what, like, those character books, they had very, very specific stuff for every character. And you could kind of go, well, if I was a fight between, I get like Captain America and Wolverine, like who's gonna win? And the other thing that we did was make characters. And so my friends and I would just make characters and try to come up with the coolest character that we could. And then I don't know that we really ever actually played with them.
It's still to this day, and I have bought quite a few other role-playing games that are superhero oriented. I still think it had one of the best character creations, especially
it's so good.
when you got the Ultimate Powers book, which you can throw the Ultimate Powers book up there. Oh, nope. There we go. Ultimate Powers book. Which is the only book I couldn't find last night.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so the OCD in me just went absolutely nuts and tore the house apart.
Right.
I know I still have it because it was out on my desk and my wife remembers seeing it, and I just somebody helped me and put it away for me. So when you had that, I mean, it was every power you could possibly have as a superhero
Yeah.
was covered under that book in some way. The folks who wrote these, so David E. Martin, who put these, just they're so well done. They're so well done. And again, now the combat system was not the greatest. There were things about the system that were not the greatest.
It was very simple though. That was like
Mhm.
that was the big advantage of it. It was
Well, it could be.
yeah, sure.
It could be very complex. The basic system, so which was these books here. So these books were the basic system. The advanced system, which was these books here, which doesn't one of them doesn't even have a cover now. I don't know where the cover, but these books here, it not as easy. Yeah, there's the advanced set. That would be the cover that would be on this if I could find it. Find the cover. The cover I think has been lost to time. I use these books to death. The fact that they even still exist in my collection at all is a miracle. And here are the characters for that are still
Right. Yeah. Well, so the it was Jeff Grubb and David Martin who are the ones who really came up with the system.
Yeah.
And Jeff Grubb he wrote Curse of the Azure Bonds, the novel.
Yeah, he did.
And
Yeah.
he actually also is the person who brought Ed Greenwood to TSR, who created the Forgotten Realms and Faerun. Apparently he had written some letters or articles for Dragon Magazine. Jeff Grubb read them and was like, "Oh, we should check this guy out and see." And called him up and got in touch with him and said, "Do you really have this world? Is this the world that you've got?
Right.
Is that real?" And he was like, "Yes, I have a massive, massive world." And that's what the standard world in D&D now is Faerun, which was
Sure.
sort of tangentially, you have Jeff Grubb is the one who's kind of responsible for bringing in Ed Greenwood, whose world that was. Anyway, sorry, but he worked for TSR. He was kind of had lots of new ideas and was doing all kinds of interesting stuff.
Yeah. And the way the game worked is you did have statistics. You had the face rip system.
Yeah, we called it phase rip, but I think
Right.
we were wrong.
Yeah, I think it was
Face rip.
face rip. Yep, there you go. Well, actually, take that off for a second.
Yeah, because that's the
Take
universal.
that off.
Yeah.
Because and I'll tell you why. So fighting,
Mm-hmm.
agility, strength, endurance, and those four you would take the statistics for that, and that would make your hit points.
Right.
And then reason, intuition, and psyche would be the three, and those would become your karma points.
Right.
And the reason I wanted you to take that off is because I wanted to show to this day. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to close my eyes.
Mhm.
In fact, I wish there was a way. All right, now bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me when it's up because I want to. I'm gonna,
It's up.
to this day. Shift 0, feeble, poor, typical, good, excellent, remarkable, incredible, amazing, monstrous, unearthly. Shift X, Shift Y, Shift Z, class 1000, class 3000, class 5000, beyond.
That is correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. To this day, and I haven't played this game in forever.
And what are
Like-
those? What like?
So those are the
yeah.
classes. Those are the classes that you would get in each. So you had a number value that was attached to each of them, but like your fighting wasn't just 4 or whatever.
Right.
It was your
typical
fighting was you're a remarkable fighter,
Right.
right? You know.
And so which gave you a greater chance of success because it
Yeah.
was a range of success for remarkable, which was bigger than if
it,
you were
it
typical.
worked on a die 100
system. Yeah.
system, and you could see there on the chart you would make a roll, and whether you got a green result or a yellow result or a red result would and this is why I say the basic was simple, the advanced, as you can see, not so simple.
Sure.
So the advanced became more complex as you went on. But yeah, to this day, like I can rattle that stuff off like it's just crazy. I can't believe that like my brain has got that still in. So the way I came to it
Right.
is the two best friends in my life, and probably the two people who are more responsible for me delving into fantastical subject matter and
Other
having
than
my
your
love
dad,
of other than my father.
Other than your dad.
Yeah, other than my father was I don't know if I should name them, but it was a set of twins,
Mhm.
girls that I literally spent 90% of my social time with from 198 like I said, about 1983 all the way up until I left the country of Canada.
Gotcha.
And I mean, we were inseparable, and I loved them dearly and still do to this day. And I hope I haven't had contact with them for years and years, and I hope they're doing extremely well and very happy in their lives because they deserve it. They were incredibly creative people, and we would play this game constantly. And now when I say play the game, we never played it right, probably.
Yeah.
In that we didn't. So here are the maps, by the way, for this. So the maps for these games were zone based. So you'd be in a particular zone and you would attack a particular zone. Just to give you an idea, here's a park area. A lot of these are city streets and stuff, and places that you would have. I have like the Avengers Tower in here somewhere.
Mhm.
I got tons and tons of all the maps that I keep the maps in a stack that are separate for all the modules and stuff that they came in. But so we did occasionally use maps for things, but most of the time we didn't. In fact, most of the time we didn't even roll dice. It was a game of imagination. It
Theater
was
of the mind.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah.
And we would just use this as
And you didn't use the standard characters.
No.
You like never.
never
Right.
did. In fact, this was kind of the start of me creating worlds because so you know those giant tub type things that people use for their laundry?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of those that's just full of character sheets. I'm not being facetious at all. I reached into that tub and I just grabbed a random stack.
Okay. Which is
I don't even know which.
Yeah.
So this is a random stack. Now over time,
Oh wow.
these, and I'll show you some of this. Over time, these, became. I had entire groups. I had, I had an extended universe, and my extended universe was also a multiverse.
Right. Of
Before,
course.
like multiverses were like a big thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and just, I mean, you're looking at it here. I don't know if I showed the people out there that they would help. Here's that universe's hell.
Right. And the pantheon of hell.
The pantheon of hell,
the gods.
just for this superhero game.
Right.
And that
Look
you
at-
can't probably read it.
But look, it's printed in that. What was it? Dot matrix? Is that the name of
Yeah,
it? Like that's.
Yeah, and each one of them has got like, different there's a character named Prowl, character named Nightmare. Some of them now, my dad worked at an office that had a photocopier.
Oh.
So I snuck into his office and made a ton of photocopies, but sometimes I ran out of them, and so I just do it on regular paper. This one here is called Darkhold. This is Gangbuster. This is just an average cult assassin. This is a character named Desire. Purge, Caliber, Cosmonaut. This is the Russian team, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Ricochet. Yep.
Some of the-
Ricochet.
yeah. Some of the-
Mikhail Nabokov. Yeah. Like, and so all of these Mindlock spelled Mindlok, Alexei Molotov, Sputnik, Strad von Zarovich.
Wait, that's the Curse of Strahd, or the Strahd von Zarovich is the.
Is that?
Yeah, that's his name.
That would have been by accident. I don't know how that would have happened.
All right.
Either that or one of the girls like named him that. And,
Right.
and Darkstar, Natasha. I don't know how to do that. Dagar, which is Nikolai Romanov. So like this is just all Starscream, Grigori. Now, of course, like some of these were borrowed names because you can only come up with so many names. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
And
There's
going.
a lot.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because you were originally, when the game came out, it was designed for you to get to play the Marvel superheroes and to be, Iron Man or to be Hulk or Spider Man or one of them.
So,
And
uh-huh.
go ahead.
No, I just go on. Yeah.
Well, so that was the original rule set, sort of assumed that that's what you were going to do, but nobody really wanted to do that so much as they wanted to invent their own cool characters. And so the advanced book, which came out not that long afterwards, was really designed for people to be able to invent their to roll up their characters and make them interesting and cool.
I'm getting a kick out of looking at some of this because I didn't look at this at all last night because I just wanted this to be so. So this is the group affiliation for this guy. This is called Risk, which is stands for something. I don't remember what exactly it stands for, but this was a superhero group that had cars that were like, think Kit,
Right. Okay.
Knight Rider. But every one of the cars was this. Sparkplug was a Lotus Esprit, Wheeljack was a Jeep. I don't know how many of them there. I think this is just so here's an entire organization. This was an evil organization that was called Luna, and all of the bad guys were named after parts of the moon. So like Mare Boreum would be like it was Mare, Sinus, Pallas, and Lacus were the four different like designations you could have as an agent.
Okay.
And so, so Sinus Titanum would be, which is a part of the moon, which is a designation of the moon.
Right.
But he was like, a giant titanium, like think Colossus.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just a sheet for some reason detailing all the different people who were in that
group that you made up.
Organization.
Right.
And all of these, of course, had all of these had sheets attached to them. Yeah.
Like again, for me, it was pretty kind of a different experience because like I was fascinated by the actual like inner workings of the Marvel characters and like figuring out where they stood in the universe, and who was powerful and who was not powerful and what their weaknesses were. And it was such a handy, before the internet, and you could look up, what's the background of what, one of North Star or Guardian or like any of the characters. Like,
Sure.
This was how you could find that out, like without having to go through an entire, finding the old comic books.
Right.
This was an amazing
And I think
resource.
that's how most people probably used it.
Right. Yeah, and it was an amazing resource. It would be, again, before it was the Encyclopedia Marvelica. Like there was no comparison to that.
And again, I can't stress how ridiculous some of this stuff is. In that, so this is the NEJ that they belong to. This is a group out of England.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, because they spread though into. I had groups in every single nation on the globe.
Yeah, sure.
This particular group though, was a, how they had the New Teen Titans?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because back in the past there was a thing called England Justice.
Okay.
This was the New England Justice. So this was a group that was.
Did they all talk like this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Clam Chowder?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a character named Clam Chowder? Because that would be
No, I don't.
cool.
But yeah, I do. It's so funny.
Hey, Brett in the booth, are you squirming with how nerdy this is?
Yeah, this is so nerdy.
This is
I'm sorry, what? I just,
right.
And some of these have actual player names that were named after friends of mine too. That were just this. This is just crazy.
Right.
There's something. There's a utility belt from one of the characters.
There's a drawing of a utility belt with like it's basically the blueprint for how it's laid out. Really, really detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just one of the things I did in my spare time.
Yeah.
I just yeah.
Well, so my friend's brother that I used to do this with, he was a really great artist, and so we would come up with characters, and he would draw them for us, and then like we would see who was cooler and make fun of each other's characters, and that was kind of how we played with these. Like that was the fun for us. You are nerding out so big time.
well,
Yeah,
I because I'm remembering this.
I know.
This was were these good guys or bad guys? I can't remember. I think they were both, because it was a series of magical rings
Mhm.
that were attached to each one of the zodiac, and each zodiac symbol had a set of rings, and each ring would give you a different power. And if you could put the entire group of rings together, so this was how many different rings had been assembled for each of those sets.
Right.
To see how many powers. Yeah. And we would just be walking to the movies and we'd be playing this.
So you didn't play with dice. You just sort of
Nope.
walked and
Sometimes we did, but most of the time we didn't. Most of the time it was just out and about,
telling stories
Yeah.
essentially.
Yep. Just talking as the characters, and I was I would say 90% of the time I was the game master.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to call it imming because it wasn't because it wasn't DMing.
Right.
It was just, and we didn't, for some reason we didn't like the GM because I think it sounded like a general manager to us, so we just
Right.
called it.
I think they call it the judge in
Yeah, I mean, I know, but we didn't call it that.
Right.
Yeah, we're still just, and by the way, this is just us flipping through. That was an all vampire group. We're just flipping through, and there's just so much here. You have no idea. And this, like I said, I want to stress, was just a random pile I picked up that is not, I mean, the entire tub is full of these. The entire tub is full of these. In fact, if I'd gone through it, I probably could have found some even crazier stuff. So there's a bunch of these in here too. So this was an alien race, and this was just the superheroes. This was the superheroes attached to this alien race. I have star charts too of all the different starfaring races of this universe.
Right.
But these were bad guys. What was the name of the group? I don't remember what the name of this group was.
And so this game, it sounded like it was a launch pad. Like it was not even so much the game itself as it was the launch pad for creating characters and for creating the world and what.
All right, this entire book. So one of the main, my Avengers
Mhm.
was called Tech, and because all of the main. All right, you're gonna love this. This is how nerdy this gets. So all of all of the characters in Tech, were started out at least as having their powers like an Iron Man. Like Firefox was my Iron Man in my universe. So he was one of the most famous superheroes, and he was basically like an Iron Man, but his suit was mostly about fire. So think a mixture between Iron Man and the Human Torch.
Okay.
And he was like a big, big central part of the game. So skip forward somehow in my mind, because I was a huge fan of the League of Superheroes, the one that takes place in the far future, that in DC comics.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There was Saturn
Yeah.
Girl and Lightning Lad and all those guys.
Right.
So there was a Tech 3000. So in the year 3000, there was a group.
So 1,000. Your group had lasted for 1,000 years.
Well, no, not that group, but 1,000 years. The Tech name had lived on for 1,000 years.
That's what I mean. Like the organization existed for 1,000 years.
This is not the roster. This is detailed. I mean,
oh yeah,
this is the base.
Oh yeah,
this is their base. This is just me going over what is all in their base guys, this is the book. The whole book goes on like this. I don't know if you're seeing this.
This is what was in their base. This is
this one here says level 4. This is what's on the level 4 of the base.
So we used to do that too, and it's one of the cool things. So we would take the maps that they gave you for the other, and then invent your own. It became this pretty amazing launch pad for telling backstories and creating buildings and architectures and bases and stuff like that.
I mean, he will attest. This just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I could tell you part of why. Oh, this sub 2 Subterranean is
Sub-level 2?
Sub-level 2.
Yeah.
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 Sub 3, Sub 4.
No, I see them.
Part of this. I even detail that there's
North Gardens,
yeah,
South
South
Gardens,
Gardens,
and East
Sentry
Gardens. Yeah.
Towers docking station. Because this was in the far future, so they had spaceships and starships, and I believe one of them here is I noticed here Roxy, because that's a sentient starship that they had that was called Roxy. But it just keeps going on. I backpacked. So my dad, among other things, was a nature photographer, and so I would go on expeditions with him every summer, and I would take books like this. I would take books like this and fill them from beginning to end with this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I would just, because I had nothing better to do, so I'd just write until I filled up a book from the very front to the very back, 200 pages worth of the base. Now,
can I ask now? So, is one of the sub base levels like a water entrance to the base? Because I would imagine that there must be, because there's got to be a water based character.
I think this is in space.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
though.
Well, then that would probably.
I don't know. I'd have to look. I'd have to.
I feel
now,
like
keep
that
in
was a
mind,
standard.
I don't
for us.
know. By the way, this is. God, I want to say this because this is not my writing. I want to say this is Samantha's writing. One of the two girls. Because this is her. This is her note.
She's critiquing.
She's giving me notes.
Like, so why did the Technian ambassador and the engineer have rooms in different wings? Travis?
Yeah, I know.
Like, why? Why would you? Why that doesn't? I thought they were temporarily incapacitated.
Yeah, she gives notes on my base and saying how I can make things better. But overall, all in all,
good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
She read that whole thing.
That's
yeah. She loved me too.
Yeah.
You can tell because she read that whole thing.
Yeah.
But she was, both of them are just as much into this as I. And then we roped others of our friends into this too.
Sure.
But yeah, this was the creation of worlds for me. Like this was, I mean, as you could say.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, like, if someday, like, I have passed on, and my son, who I haven't really talked about any of this stuff, but like, let's say I do become a famous writer or something, and they find all this, what are they going to think this is? Like, what, especially like if it's just like 200 years later or something, they just find this in a trunk. They're going to be like, they could just, because there are books and reams of just, they're going to think I was a madman.
Yeah,
probably, I probably was.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like when you have a lot of creative energy and you're a kid and you kind of don't know where to put it, then like you put it into something like this, which is again probably why we fell in love with science fiction and fantasy and stuff like that to start with.
I didn't own a computer for most of this.
Right.
I didn't own a computer that you could print things out on.
Right.
Like, so most of this this is all handwritten.
Right.
But yeah. Yeah. I was even, I said, prepare yourself because you won't believe what I'm going to bring in. And last night when I was just looking at the sheer amount of this, and I only brought in like one of these. There's tons of these that have various different things.
Sure. One for
and toward the end of it, I did start to write like short stories and stuff, and about the characters and stuff like that. But it is for me, even looking back on it, I can't believe I had the kind of time.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. It's like you look at stuff like this and like this kind of thing. And you're like, when did I have the time to make all this stuff? Because it's a phenomenal amount of work. And my handwriting wasn't too bad back in those days.
Right, but when we again, like when we were younger, you could not access the entire history of every movie ever made with a click of a button.
This has got to be my favorite part of this drawing.
Okay.
What does this say right here?
Gun, see dragon.
See what?
So see diagram.
See diagram.
So
there's another diagram somewhere that details the gun that's in that little pouch.
Right. But that's the kind of thing, like, you could invest the time and create these, like, incredibly detailed characters, these incredibly detailed worlds, which you then carried into D&D with, like, with Lear,
Right.
with some of the worlds that you
Yes.
created, for
And
the space.
Lear was made after this. So this was my Marvel superheroes era,
Right,
and Lear was when I really after this where I got more into D&D than I was during this period of time.
right.
Lear became the second stage of creation madness,
Right, okay.
right? Uh, Ironically, this world is much more fleshed out than Lear was.
Really?
Yeah, if you were to take the actual volume of stuff, because going through just those papers right there, I didn't remember half of that
Right.
that I had created that. But then that's why I was starting to laugh, because I was like, not only was there a supergroup, but there was the new version of the supergroup, and there was a future version of the supergroup.
Sure.
There was a distinct, and not just like that list of hell. I don't ever remember doing that at all. I mean, a lizard part of my brain remembers doing that.
So you
But that was just when the characters like interacted with like hell as a entity within the superhero universe.
and go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, and I detailed that to that extent. That's like crazy pants.
What age were you? Like what was the age range from,
Well,
like,
I'm going to date myself, but
okay.
13 to 17.
13 to 17?
Yeah,
Right.
12 to 17.
Yeah, so, like, yeah, okay. Yeah, because it is that time when you, like, when you invest in something, you invest, you, like, or at least I found that during that, like, because for me, it was comic books, like, and I had thousands and thousands of comic books, and I knew the backstory of everybody, and
Well, what blows my mind,
yeah.
adults out there, I never seem to have enough time to do what needs to get done every day. Like, time moves by so quickly now as an adult.
Right.
And I look back at this, and what I don't understand is that's a full job's worth of work there that I put out, right? But I was also going to school. I was an actor, right? I had extracurriculars that weren't this. How did I also started writing music at that age.
Uh-huh.
So I have like
I don't know, Travis.
when did I
It's
have
almost
that
like
time?
you were invested in the relationships that were like that surrounded, that you were like those,
But-
that you, like, your friends who you were doing this
But
with.
like I had an active social. I just don't know when
Right.
I had the time. Like I know I slept, right? I can't like if you were to say, okay, Travis, in the next year you got to get like the amount of work done that I did in a year back in the day,
Right.
right? I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Yeah. Again,
I don't know how I could like possibly do that.
but it's why, to me, it's why so much literature, why so much of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast is the things that hit us in that age range. Like,
I also
you know,
didn't do drugs.
When-
That was back in the days where cocaine was big, and I wasn't doing it. Like
All
I
right.
could understand it better if I was like hopped up on coke and like Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
No. I have completely lost what I was saying, but
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No. It's just the kind of creative force and the kind of creative energy and the way that, like, at that age you can invest in worlds. Like, now you have to, like, pay bills, or you have to cook dinner, or you have to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, once you have children, a lot of your creative energies are designed to be poured into, fostering their creative energies. But I just I mean, I also played video games. I mean, there were other things that I did back
Sure.
then, and I just am astounded at some of this stuff. Like I honestly cannot understand how the volume. This is like Stephen King style volume. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I'm astounded. This is the one thing that I didn't expect, by the way, as going into this and researching
Right.
it, was just not understanding that part of it.
Like how much you had.
Yeah.
How much you had.
I want to show off
Yeah.
some of the books here.
Yeah.
So there were, and I think you can get almost all of this for free online now.
Yeah, you can. I think it's all gone out of copyright. So
Yeah. And the books are still fantastic. I mean, they're fantastic resources because, and Marvel's always done a much better job at this than DC of like really giving you statistically what the characters can
Oh
do.
god. Oh, I mean, like, there's
Yeah.
a diagram for the West Coast, the Avengers,
Yeah.
Quinjet, oh god, I love that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's the Avengers book.
Right.
This is the Mutants book, Children of
Mutants.
the Atom.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four compendium. These are the big books.
The
These are the books that
Avengers Mansion,
yeah.
Underground.
And
Oh
looking at
god.
this stuff, I can see stuff like that. I was trying to duplicate
Right,
that. Like
yeah.
I was looking at these books and going, okay, I think I can do this. And so I was making my 14-year-old version of those.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And you know, I just don't know. It's just crazy.
Well,
They had tons of modules. So these are mostly modules here. Let's see here. Actually,
wow.
these are
This
accessories.
is way more
So
than I had.
yeah. Well, I didn't even bring everything because I
Right.
started to run out of room. So these are the standard modules that were just Marvel Heroes, Breeder Bombs, Time Track, Murder World. Again, I didn't bring all of these. This was near and dear to my heart because I was in Canada at the time. So this was Alpha Flight.
Alpha Flight.
The fact that they actually did an Alpha Flight, module
the
was
Canadian
great.
superhero group for anybody who
Fault
doesn't.
Line, yeah, yeah. Gates of What If.
Oh. No, Nightmares of Future Past.
Yeah, so that's the series. I did bring this whole series.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
This is the 4. This is probably the most popular modules because this was the 4 X-Men.
And this was the era where the X-Men were kind of
Yeah, this was
is
the
the
Chris Claremont
era
period where X-Men were just like the best
right.
they've ever been.
Yeah.
This is where, and I just brought one of these. So there was a whole extra planner one with Thor and a bunch of other characters.
I love
that I bought both of the Secret Wars.
which
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Beyond,
you could run your own Secret Wars.
yeah, and the Beyonder, just everything was beyond
Yeah,
his power level.
yeah.
It's just
This
off
one,
the
that
charts.
one covers the good Secret Wars.
Right.
This one covers the
The
crappy, the one where the Beholder was
Beyonder
looked
was
like
like
looked like he was in Wham.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah.
And then tons of these are all accessories. So this is the judge's screen.
Wow.
So this is and look, there's an original. Don't know what was there at some point, but I still have so there's the judge's screen for that. There's so Avengers Assembled. These are kind of the mini versions of what these became. So the only one that I don't have here so this is a Pit of the Viper. This is all folding terrain.
Oh wow.
And I did not open this one for some reason. The other one I did open, and so that's accessory 4. No, accessory 3, I think, is the one I opened and did cut up. So I don't have that anymore because it got cut up and pieced out. But then there's Project Wide Awake, which I think is mostly doing stuff in the, I think it's the X Mansion, and it details an adventure in here, I think, where you get stuck in the danger room.
Yeah.
And this is New York. So this is like and then they did a follow up to that was Contract Jungle. And then it was my 2 favorite ones, which was Weapons Locker. That was all the different Iron Man suits.
Yeah.
And the best supplement that they ever put out, which was the Realms of Magic. And it's also the largest one. And again, like a fantastic, who did this? Kim Eastland. I don't know if Kim is a man or a woman. Not that it matters, but if Kim is a woman, that's fantastic because there were so few who were working in the industry at that period of time. And Kim, whoever you are, this was a masterpiece. The way you put this together, it was a fantastic version of, because it was a fantastic version of magic within a non-magic system. Basically, she just, whoever it was, I don't want to misgender, but they just put together an amazing system of using magic within a system that really wasn't designed to use magic,
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to that thing that we talked about early on, the difference between fantasy and sci-fi, and how thin that line is, you know, and superheroes are the same. I mean, superheroes are just really just a version of magic, but having like a very specific magic system in that world is very cool.
And this actually, fascinating, how you went from the comic books. See, I was more of a DC person back
Right.
in those days.
Yeah.
The other two, they were big into Marvel, but I was more. But the DC game was terrible at that period of time.
Yeah, I have that
Yeah,
game
I have
also.
it too,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
not. It's not.
It was not anywhere near as good.
It's not good. Not comparatively.
No.
And the this was one of the rare circumstances where some of these books got me into the comic book. I
Right.
couldn't care less about Doctor Strange until this supplement came out.
Right, okay.
And then I was like,
Oh.
this Doctor Strange might be, and I actually started to get some Doctor Strange books because of Kim Eastland,
Right.
which is, an interesting way to come about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just it's
And then there are a bunch of modules, especially the later modules. I brought mostly older stuff. There are some later modules that came out as well. To be honest with you, I felt that the quality actually went down over time. That some of the later modules that came out weren't as good as some of the earlier stuff. Maybe that happens when a system's been around for a while, and maybe the people who really did well by this went on to other companies or went on to other projects. And
this one was actually done by Roger Moore, who later became James Bond.
that's not Roger Moore.
I'm pretty sure it's the same.
But he got
Roger
that all the
Moore.
time. I've seen an interview with him.
Right. Okay. No. Yeah. It's as regimes change, and that's what kind of happened with this at TSR. They eventually lost the license, and then it went over to a different system.
There were a couple different Marvel games. Marvel Universe, I think, was one of them.
Marvel Heroic, I think, was the next one after this, and then there was
I think there was one called something Universe.
Well, Marvel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, these were Marvel Universe.
No, I know, I know, but I want to say that. I want to say that there wasn't.
There was a game. Maybe there was. But I know it went to, and then I think Margaret Weiss, who did her company had the license for a while, and they had a different system. But this was, and again, I really liked the Palladium system, which was also a D100 system. It had lots of superheroes and
Sure.
had, really
Palladium system has
Heroes Unlimited.
Heroes Unlimited, yeah.
Right, and Villains Unlimited, and then it also had a whole bunch of different settings with the same.
And
system.
there was a slew right around this period of time because Marvel Superheroes got so big.
Well, the first one was Champions, I think.
Yep.
And then there was Justice Machine was for the DC system, I think.
And then there was Villains and Vigilantes.
Villains and Vigilantes.
There was the DC came out with one after this.
Right.
And I want to say there was one other. It's not coming to my mind, but there was like a slew of them. None of them. I got a bunch of them, but I never got into them like I did this one.
I would still play this.
Oh yeah,
I would
too.
absolutely play this system.
In fact, I will tell you this.
Yeah.
When I was getting ready to do our live play,
okay,
I actually bought a book that was a superhero D&D.
Okay.
Using D&D rules with superheroes.
Okay.
And I was very close to having us do a superhero campaign.
Oh, really?
Instead of a D&D campaign.
Okay.
Because again, I had so much.
right. You can just.
And I thought, I'll go. And I still, if there was the interest, I would do that. I have so much out there. But yeah, I would play this. I think it'd be interesting to go, and I think we'd probably have to house rule some things.
Yeah.
Because I do remember there are some clunky things about it. There are definitely some clunky things about it, especially the combat. But I do have great love for it, and it's just such a rich universe.
And I just like this is like it has it's not just Iron Man suits. It's like all the different people that had suits.
Oh yeah. It's all the
how
different
suits worked, and like the ways like
Stiltman's in there, I think.
Oh god, yeah, it's
Steve
so good.
Stiltman's in there.
Well, I know. Let's see, Guardians in here. There's
Stiltman.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
yeah, all the different stuff that came out of Armor Wars.
Right.
All the Stingray. Yeah.
There we go. Just the depth. You could tell that the people who made this were fans of the world that
they took it really
They took
seriously.
it really seriously.
Like they really they understood that the people who wanted to like do a deep dive into this
Yeah.
wanted that level of detail. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why the DC one failed. Because the DC one, I felt like the people who, you know, and I don't want to talk ill of other creative artists, but I felt like they never took what they were doing as seriously as these guys did. They never gave the kind of minutia detail that I think people were looking for.
I think that they actually had the original license, or they had announced. I think it was Mayfair Games, I think, and they announced that they had the license for Marvel, but they didn't. And so TSR kind of swooped in, got the license, and then they took their system to DC.
And I will say, it is unusual. This is one of the, you called it like the other big thing for TSR, and it kind of was, because a lot of the other stuff that they did, I preferred other systems to it. Like they'd certainly, Star Frontiers was not a great
Buck Rogers
system. There were a lot of the Traveler. I mean, there was just a bunch of the Palladium science fiction one.
Rift.
Rift,
the one before that.
Rifts. We'll do a show on Rifts at some point, because Rifts would be my third most favorite role playing game.
Rifts is amazing
after D&D and Marvel,
in the way that it pulled all the.
Oh yeah, Rifts was amazing. But I know I was trying to think of their Starfaring one. They have a Starfaring one, and I can't feel like.
Well, they had Robotech. Like they had the mechanoids. Palladium had Robotech and mechanoids. Those were
sure.
Yeah.
But I don't. Oh yeah, that Robotech. But I'm trying to think. They had more of a generic one. Anyway, you know, we were just talking about James Bond. Like Top Secret was okay, but the James Bond role playing game was fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever played that.
Well, did it have? I think it had. Was that also a face rip game?
No.
Or is that Indiana Jones? Well, I think like
I don't remember any.
I think Indiana Jones
could be. I don't remember Indiana Jones. But I do remember the James Bond, because this was another, to this day. So the book that I couldn't find was out because I was using it as a reference on a different like a Hollywood project I was using it for. Those James Bond books, I still use those. I bring them out and I use them for reference, because the statistics and stuff they have for the guns.
Oh, it was amazing.
In that were like amazing. And so to this day,
absolutely,
I will refer to those books as gun guides.
Yeah.
It's the Q manual.
Exactly.
The James Bond Q manual. I still bring that out and use that, because
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
You just said it. But the way that what these guys did for superpowers, they did for the technological stuff, and the weapons, like guns.
Oh, yeah.
They broke it down. So, and Palladium did a really good job about with their compendium of weapons and armor. But the James Bond game was so good at.
Yeah, the James Bond was a really
at the
fun
different
game.
kind of.
I liked it better than Top Secret.
Yeah.
The only other game that TSR had that I played at very, you know, more than like a one shot kind of thing was Gamma World. Gamma World was interesting.
Never played it.
Gamma World was interesting because you were constantly trying to like dive into nuclear waste so that you could get mutated.
Right.
It was a very weird system.
Right.
But it was and Gamma World was basically D&D in a post-apocalyptic wasteland kind of thing. But I'm surprised you never played Gamma World.
No, I don't. I mean, unless I lost it, like I just can't like that. There are like whole chunks of my memory that are just gone.
There are things I don't have anymore because we got robbed at some point when I was a kid, and
they stole your.
They destroyed a lot of stuff.
Oh.
It was like they took stuff, but they vandalized and ripped up a bunch of things just to be jerks.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And a lot of it, I had documentation that I had, and so I was able to get the insurance to get me new. In many cases, some of these are technically the second version I had of those because they got destroyed.
Oh, right.
They took a bunch of books and they like threw them out into the yard. And it was raining and stuff, and so it got destroyed. But wasn't just my books, but some of that stuff I never replaced. Like I think I had some original Gamma World stuff that I don't think I ever got back. But yeah. I have a massive library of this stuff, which I'm sure you do too. But.
Yeah, well, I actually gave my library away, and then my friend recently gave it back to me.
Right, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, because to make space, because I didn't have any space before,
and I have been the repository for people giving their because they know that I collect this stuff.
Right.
And I treasure it because I honestly believe and I kickstart a lot of role playing games, and I highly suggest that those of you out there that have a passion for this, I love reading these things.
Oh yeah.
And I love the amount of work and effort and just heart and soul that people put into these RPG systems. I'm a big proponent of kickstarting. I just kickstarted. Speaking of superheroes, what was it?
City of Mist.
City of Mist.
Yeah.
I kickstarted and got every City of Mists, just because I thought it would be a real cool read.
Yeah.
Don't know that I'll ever play the game,
Right.
but I also just want to support people who are out there that are making non-traditional games. I love Dungeons and Dragons, but I don't want that to be the only thing that exists. Out
Yeah,
there.
and it's can be dangerously close to feeling like it's so monolithic.
Like it's a monolith,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so if you're at all interested in this kind of stuff,
There's so many good
Kickstart
alternatives as well.
Kickstart people who are doing stuff that's out of the box. It just hasn't things that you might be interested in. You won't always get something that is fantastic, but I'll tell you, a lot of the stuff that I get, and I get a lot of Kickstarter RPG, a lot. My wife is not too happy about the volume that I get.
Right.
Some of it is amazing, and I have stumbled across some companies that I'm like, I want to reach out to these companies because their work is fantastic. And sometimes, and sometimes those companies, because there's Humblewood is an example of that. And I got the original Humblewood Kickstarter, and I remember actually reaching out to calling them and saying, I just want to tell you, this is fantastic. Like what you've put together. It's beautiful. The art is just as good as any.
It is. It's a campaign setting.
It's a campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons, where that is where you're playing like Wind in the Willows style,
animal, anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah,
yeah.
The word I always say wrong all the time.
Which one?
Whatever. I always say anthropomorphic or so. I say it wrong.
I don't know. There's a few.
You pointed it out to me.
I may have
a couple times where I say anamorphic.
Oh right. Okay.
Which is a film, which is a film style instead of anthropomorphic.
Right.
Yeah. So that Wind of the Willows.
It's beautiful.
Look,
the art is beautiful,
and it's just fantastic. I honestly thought about maybe using that if I wasn't going to use one of my own worlds,
right? Because
it was so neat, and I know that. I believe, I don't want to talk out of turn, but I think that Dimension 20 has used them for, but I don't either that or they made up their own system or used it from another company. But I think it would probably be Humblewood, and I think you can get Humblewood on D&D Beyond now. They've become so big.
Oh right, cool.
Yeah, so like I said, big proponent of supporting
different systems and different worlds and different genres. I mean, it is the great thing about these games is that anything is possible.
Yeah, because you never know when you're going to find a Marvel superheroes out there that captures your imagination.
I still just love it.
I know.
It just
looking
makes
through this stuff, it does make you want to play, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this!
Oh my god!
Look at this!
It's an encounter. Yeah.
Look at that! It's an encounter wheel.
That's so cool.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
this stuff is just buried in here,
and it is from a very specific time, and it is from a very specific place. But like this sort of thing just makes me so happy.
Yeah,
and I'm very jealous of your library here.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure almost everything I have here, you can get, and it will look better online.
You can get
for free,
the PDF,
not illegally, but legally for free. There are a lot of you can get a lot of old role-playing game systems that are basically what we would call it in the computer world abandonware.
Right.
But it's just stuff that's abandoned that nobody, it will never be, reissued again. And so feel free to go out there and search it out and use it. And this would definitely be worth it.
This is essentially a free system that you wouldn't have to invest in at all, other than the time it takes to download it. And these, again, still totally playable.
Yeah, and if you're into Marvel heroes, this would definitely be the game to play.
I haven't played the multiverse one. That's the new one, which
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know it, but again, this system was really excellent and lasted for about a decade.
Yeah, it did. It went out. I think it was from about 1983 to 1993.
Yeah, something like
approximately.
that. Yeah.
The last few came out in 93, 94, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And it was a really great system.
Yeah. You can, again, in my opinion, you could probably skip the modules that came out there right toward the end. They're just not as good. But the gold standard is these ones here, these thicker books, the MA series. I don't know if that stands for Marvel Accessory or what. No, because Marvel AC, I think, is accessory. The MA books,
Mhm.
those 4 books would be my first downloads, quite frankly.
Well, other than the rules and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the third one, the Powers book, basically has a lot of the rules in it.
All right.
Cool. So yeah, that is.
Yeah, let us know what you think. If you guys ever played it, or if you have superhero role playing games that we haven't mentioned or that you particularly love, we'd love to hear about them.
Would you like to see a show all about riffs,
Yes.
or about?
I would like to see a show all about. I would like to do a show all about
Yeah,
rifts and all like Teenage Mutant Ninja
I
Turtles.
can bring another giant pile of books in here.
I
Yeah.
have an entire bookshelf in my
Yeah.
office, which is all Palladium stuff. So I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I have an entire shelf that's just riffs.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, because they came out with a lot of books.
Yeah. It's still, and they're still coming out with like
They still do, I
we had I had a long chat with them at Gen Con when we went a couple.
I
years
should
ago.
see if we could do something with them.
Yeah. That would be. I would love that. I just have a soft spot for D100 systems across the board.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
that is really what I grew up with. Was through Palladium, through Call of Cthulhu. Like those are the things that I really got into. Where that was those skill based and D100 systems.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please let us know about it.
Like and subscribe.
Give us a comment and tell other people.
Yeah.
Tell other people that we exist because we would love to keep doing this. So we will see you again in another 2 weeks
Yep.
when we have
We'll see.
who knows?
It'll be maybe a movie, maybe a book, maybe a game, maybe a like
TV series.
TV series. You never
Maybe we'll just bring a person in here and say, hey.
know. So this nerd really made me
Yeah.
like fantasy when I was a kid. Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll fly in the twins
Great.
from wherever they are these days.
All right.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.